Hello, hello. Welcome to the Oye Cinema Club. Today we have a treat for y'all. We are going to be reviewing Along Came the Callback. It's a film by Jason Ishmael Echols, and he's actually part of the Cinema Club. So we are here with our lovely host as well. We have El Dondino, we have Marina, we have, of course, our illustrious filmmaker, Jason Ishmael Echols, and me, Steve Dev TV. We're going to be talking about Along Came the Callback. So let's start
Along
with
came a callback.
Along Came a Callback. Thank you for the correction.
Damn.
And let's start with first impressions. Ladies first, always. So, Marina, what are your first
Yay! It was so cool to watch this. And the first time I watched it, because I did rewatch it for tonight. The first time I watched it, I was just like, wow, this is super relatable. I have an ex-boyfriend that probably would make a movie and have me audition just to try to spite me. And he has the funding. So I was just like, this is relatable. But it was so cool to just see a lot of like the gems of like auditioning in general and the stress and two people dating in the same industry, even if they do two different things, and which kind of reminds me of me and my husband. Like, we both love different parts about the industry, and just seeing like how it could be a struggle. So right off the back, super relatable. And then just also really well written. I love a good vantage point. And so it was kind of cool to see, like, you're so invested in what you thought happened, and then seeing it in the perspective of the other person is like, oh, okay, dang, maybe she's not the villain. Maybe we both just didn't understand each other that well. But overall, just like really good movie.
Cool, cool.
Go ahead, Dino. Thank you
All
so much.
right. So it was my first time watching it, but the way it differs is I'm actually Jason's roommate, even though we barely are in the same room anymore or same city. So I got like this whole different like first impression type of thing because I remember him writing the script. Every now and then he would kind of share something and then go back at it and all that. So this is way old before COVID. And then, he starts shooting, I think, during COVID or right before all the shutdown. And then when I started helping him, yeah, we were wearing the masks and following all the COVID protocol. So not even counting the length of him writing, just the shooting of the movie, I think was like 2 years, maybe a little bit, yeah, give or take, just because there was a whole shutdown and everything. So that itself was interesting. And then there was, as most people know, you shoot the movie all out of order. So when I was either like, laying on the floor holding something up or like just all the way in the corner, I would hear all these scenes kind of like in different orders or like the different perspectives, especially once, later on in the movie, there's that kind of like flip there. You get the two perspectives. So that was tripping me out at times during the shoot because I was like, where is he going with this? So there's that. And then just the neat thing of, I believe the very first shot, which is of the ticket on the windshield, was the last thing that Jason shot. Either was exact. I don't think it was exactly the last, but it was on the last day of filming. So it's just funny, like seeing that as like, holy shit, this was shot like 2 years, 3 years after the original thing, and it's the first thing we see. So that being said, that gave me a different appreciation for the film and seeing everything that he was trying to juggle and incorporate. I think it came out super well, especially from him kind of telling me the idea and all that. Yeah, so I really enjoyed a lot of back and forth. It was really well edited, I thought, by whoever Jason got. So yeah, that's kind of my first impressions. I enjoyed seeing a completed work kind of from like start to finish.
Thank you so much, Dino.
I forgot
Uh,
to say,
oh,
sorry,
go ahead.
relatability, that ticket. I That's so real. If you live in LA, I remember I moved here from Atlanta, like suburbs. I had never heard of like street cleaning in my mother freaking life. So I got a ticket, and then you're doing like all this freelance work, working in Culver City, Hollywood. I got a ticket everywhere because I didn't know. So on top of street cleaning, don't park here from 2 to 5, but you can stop here from 1 to 6, but don't like. I was just like, I just got a whole lot of tickets. So that was really cool to kind of intro with that.
Nice, nice.
So I'm gonna give my first impressions. It was my first time actually watching this film. I actually watched it twice, and honestly, I was extremely shocked of just how. And I'm not saying this because he's here. I'm not saying this because we've been doing this for a long time. But I was very shocked of how good this film was. From the writing, of course, kudos, to the locations that were picked, to the lighting, the cinematography, the sound was very important. Um, I have very little tidbits that I would like to say later in one of the segments that we have later that we're going to do have a Q&A and everything. Um, but overall, like I really enjoyed this film, and what to me, honestly, what makes a great film, apart from like how it looks and the writing and all that, and the acting, of course, would be like if you felt like time literally just flew by. And that's how I felt watching this twice. That like it was smooth. I honestly did not feel that like close to a half hour like went by watching this film. Uh, and yeah, overall, like the acting was really great. The people that were casted were great. My two particular most favorite scenes, and I know like I'm getting ahead of myself, but I want to include it in my first impressions, was definitely the flashback coffee scenes. Uh, so many things about it, but definitely because that was one of my favorite locations. Wink, wink. I gave that one to Jason, and nostalgic because that unfortunately because of pandemic and stuff like there's no longer that same coffee shop anymore. But I really enjoy that scene and definitely like the ending scene. That we're having like that heart to heart moment. And yeah, and I want to say more things, but I definitely want to leave it for a little bit later because I also have another first impression that's not from me, and it's from Chris Trovador. He wrote an impression of the film, and I'm just gonna read it as is. And he says, first off, bravo, it's so hard to film in general, and from a filmmaker standpoint, that was awesome. Great cast, great story, and damn it, Jason, you wrote, directed, and acted in this. That's what I'm talking about. That's the hard work and ambition that I love to see. Bro, freaking bro. All right, I'm going to give notes as if these aren't people that I know, strictly from my perspective. Take it like a grain of salt and leave out the notes that you don't like, but I'm reading all of them. Along came the callback. What a great title. I loved it. Loved the lighting and simple locations for these scenes. So good for indie films. Didn't notice any audio issues. Great job. Love this story. This story felt real and as if could have been happening to any of us that live in LA. Depending on what festivals you submit, I definitely that's whatever. Depending on what genre you'll consider this film, first scene makes me the audience believes that this is going to be some kind of drama and not a comedy. Everything seems serious. Our first big joke was when the lights were turned off during the audition, which didn't come until later. Don't get me wrong, I love dramedies, but there needs to be those things happening simultaneously, though I understand that it's not an easy thing to do. What could help is by adding some in between scoring music during the transition scenes. That will choose what the audience should be feeling at the moment. Audrey's agent is very believable. She kind of sounds exactly like my agent. If this film is a comedy, maybe add a joke. In the beginning, I really disliked Noah's perspective as a human. LOL. Sure, writing can be your whole life, and you can be obsessed. Trust, I've been there. But when we're in the flashback, he comes off as immature slash childish, and I kept wondering, why are you with him then? He must have always been like almost an asexual character, not in tune with his relationship. Well, why couldn't this person connect even to his girlfriend on a human level? It made me feel as if they couldn't have been dating for more than a week. For example, no hugs, kiss, or even hand touching to try and console her when she comes into the shop. Also, Noah sees that a random dude is trying to holler, cat called her, and no reaction to it from even a man to man perspective. Eye contact, nothing. Also, I did notice that the man on the street that is trying to holler at her had his wedding ring on. That seems like a whole other story in itself. But depending on how long their relationship, that shit wouldn't fly. She's breaking up with him, and Noah is playing dumb. LOL. Like it is his first relationship or a side piece that he doesn't care about. Basically, to me, the whole interaction in the coffee shop seemed like Noah was in a comedy and Audrey was in a drama. I'm glad the producers that were in the room called Noah out on his bullshit. I like the juxtaposition between 2 years ago and present day conversations with Noah and Audrey. When Audrey tells her point of view, she does this narration trope that I love. Though, if that's being added, I do want to see the same with Noah's perspective. Audrey then tells her point of view, but the shots remain the same. Sure, it may be a big close up instead of mid shot, but nothing really different. Maybe fully different angles, lighting, music, etc. Could help differentiate their perspectives. For example, in Noah's mind, it's a comedy. Then in Audrey's perspective, is a drama or horror story because of all horrible things happening in her life. Also, we kind of seen the entire scene twice. Unless these major distinctions, we may not need to have it. When they were on the rooftop, man, what a great exchange of dialogue and acting. Both looking to the side, not really at each other or what I call distance. That's what I saw now that they both have grown apart. It felt real. Loved it. Loved the silent moment that Audrey took to herself, a moment of reflection and what could possibly happen in the future. Great moment. Lastly, side thought. Is it me or why does Jason, Steve, and I look like we're all related? We all have beautiful hair. Is that what I'm trying to say? Again, bravo, job. Loved it. Plus, I got so happy to see my friends working together in that audition room. Thank you for sharing this with me. Thank you for sharing your art with gratitude, Krizia.
Very
Very cool.
cool.
Now let's go
Very
with
cool.
Jason, and we need two first impressions for you. First impression of you making this film, if it's your first time making it, or if it's your 11th time making a film, what was your first impression making this particular film? And then your first impression of you watching this film. I guess you can mix it with the first time watching this film to like now that you probably have watched it maybe 1,000 times.
Yeah. So yeah, this is my first film that I've directed. I've directed like a lot of sketch and stuff before, but as far as a film goes, this is the first. um. So yeah, I've seen the film like 100 times at this point. So uh, but recently, the last time I watched it, it was the first time I had seen it in a long time where I was able to sort of separate myself from it and sort of watch it a little bit more unbiasedly, or not even unbiasedly, just without the judgment. Because every time I watched it, there was a ton of judgment and me trying to, crack down on like flaws or tightening things up or whatever. But like I was finally able to watch it recently of just me taking it all in, and I would say that knowing what I know, about the film, which is everything, I would say that unbiasedly, I would say it's a pretty good first film. It is flawed. The funny thing about the flaws, though, which actually make me feel pretty good, is that I knew the flaws going in. like I knew some of the flaws in the script because it was a short. If it was a longer version, some of those things wouldn't have even have been there. You just sort of have to like tighten it up and keep it, compressed for a short. But then also, like while I was on set, I knew the flaws that were happening that were incorrectable, if that makes any sense. So it's like, yeah, I know this is messed up. There's nothing I can do about it. This is the amount of time we have. This is the amount of money we have. This is the amount of resources we have. We have to make this work in the moment. We'll do what we can in post. We'll do what we can right now. But I went into it knowing that, and like, all right, well, now we have to improvise because that's what you do on a film set, because sometimes you just you run out of time, you run out of money, you run out of resources, and your back's up against the wall, and now you got to maneuver and get creative. So yeah, I see the flaws in it. I see the things that really work in it. But all in all, I would say that I'm pretty proud of this as a first effort for sure. Oh, let me say, I should also note that uh, they say that 90% of directing is casting. But with film, I feel like, especially me as the producer, it was more than just casting the actors. It was actually like hiring all the crew and all the behind the scenes tech people. And honestly, I couldn't have, as far as like the behind the scenes tech people, I couldn't have done any better. Like everybody was great behind the scenes. People like Dino came, through, and Maisha came
I don't
through, and
remember
Isaac
getting
came through.
hired though. I do not remember getting hired, so we'll have to talk later. No.
Well, I think um I think casting those people and bringing those people aboard, that's what really made the film, because I mean they made my life easier in a ton of ways, because as a filmmaker, like I know how I want things to look and how I want them to turn out, and I understand the storytelling aspect of it, but I don't understand all the technical aspects. So guys like, Ron Kurakawa, like our DP, he was like my, main liaison. He was like my second guy, because he knew how to communicate all the things that I didn't to everybody else, which is like huge. I don't know all the tech stuff. I don't know all the lenses and cameras and the angles, and how to, I don't know the lighting situation. I don't know that. I know how I need it to look, and I'll do my best to communicate it. But those guys are really the real heroes in getting this thing made, and all the actors that stepped up, like, you know, I will say this too. Let me just preface this, because this is a part of the review. This is important. I think all the actors in the film were really, really good, and they came prepared and they handled their business. I personally think that my performance is the worst performance in the film, which is unfortunate, but I'm just being honest. And I think that it's probably my worst performance of my entire career. There was a lot going on, producing, directing, and writing the film. There are certain scenes that you guys don't know, but I didn't even have time to learn my lines for certain scenes. But so it worked out the way it did. I feel like if I would have had like another day or maybe another few hours to like learn my lines and rehearse them a little bit, it would have been a better performance and thus a better movie.
I do want to just to piggyback on that. Yeah, the crew, like especially like Jason was saying, when things came up and kind of had to improvise on the spot, and usually you have people that are kind of divine out, even on the crew side, or that feel like they don't want to be there, like their time is being wasted. But everyone was kind of on board and just like, all right, we're just gonna wait. There was filming that a couple times, till like two and whatever, and it's just like everyone was just like, this is how it goes sometimes, and we're all jumping in, and we're all kind of lending a hand also in certain things if something is missing. So definitely, that's definitely I can confirm that it was a very smooth uh, crew and actors as well. So.
I'm such a mom when my friends do things. You said flaws. I'm like, there's no flaws. It was perfect. I,
I
I,
I appreciate that.
and I felt like you did a good job. Like I understand being nervous when it's all you, but like thankfully you kind of picked a character wrote a character that kind of needed a little bit of like douchey distance. So it like sometimes when you're nervous, you could be a little distance from what you're working on, and it kind of worked out because you're playing like this ex that is kind of like indecisive about unresolved feelings and like you're just being a little jealous, you're also a little delusional, like so it worked out to be kind of maybe overwhelmed like during playing that character.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to jump also on what Trovador said of the. I totally noticed the wedding ring as well watching it, and I was like, oh, because it was like shining the light somehow in that one shot. Which, yeah, it's like there's a whole other movie there. Like, and I was, because we've talked a little bit, like, would, if either Jason would do it again, or if it gets extended, maybe for what gets into a full length, and like that's definitely something that can at some point be explored, right? But anyway, just yeah, I
Shady
thought the
married
same
men
thing.
out
Like,
there.
what'd you say?
There's shady married men out there. Wasn't
Yeah,
that much of a mistake?
I'm, I,
yeah.
I
So
mean,
Yeah.
here would be this is just like a suggestion if you were to like make this a feature. Uh, you should do definitely more of that flashback memento stuff. Uh, and do it like that, like for more characters that it ties up things. Like that will make it super interesting because to me those were my favorite parts. And to me, at least to me, like I enjoyed like the transitions were very smooth for me.
Yeah.
I'm just
Oh,
imagining
Steve,
that.
are you kind of saying like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, where, and again, just to be clear, Jason isn't copying Lock, Stock. It's just the idea. It's something that watch it, but a few of these different stories in the flashbacks are kind of like what's going on, and then there's an intertwined moment. Was that kind of what you were thinking, Steve?
Yeah.
Cool. Just was double checking.
so a few things. The wedding ring was absolutely a choice. It was a very conscious choice. Julian Gant, who plays Lucky Larry in the film, he is married and he had his wedding ring on. And I was looking at it when he was, going. We were going through the blocking. I was looking at it and I was trying to decide that I want him to keep it on or not.
Mhm.
And nobody had mentioned it or anything. And then I had decided, I'm like, no, yeah, Lucky is a scumbag. He's he's just a guy out here. He's married, maybe he's separated. I don't know, but he has that ring on. He's going to keep it. After we shot the scene a couple times, someone goes, "Oh no, he has his wedding ring on." He goes, "Oh man, I forgot to take it off." I'm like, "Nope, leave it. I've already decided it's on there. I want it on there." So that was that. Um, Steve, you said, that you really like the flashbacks, and in a feature there would be more. So in the longer version of the script, there are more flashbacks. Without giving too much away, I mean, we're here now, but the idea, the idea spawned from Akira uh, Akira what's his name? Akira Kawa. What's the director's name? Do you know?
Akira Kurosawa.
Kurosawa, yeah. So
Yeah.
Kurosawa has a film called Rashomon, and basically, while I was writing the film and I was kind of putting it together, I'm like, this thing is going to work as a Rashomon. So the idea in the initial script was his truth, her truth, and the truth. And the truth would have come from Lucky Larry. So Lucky Larry sees the whole thing go down, and then by the last scene, they're like arguing, like, what's going on? And then Lucky Larry comes through, like, no, this is what actually happened. But maybe even from a comedic perspective, Lucky Larry's would have been total comedy in the flashbacks.
Yeah.
And his perspective might have also been flawed, but it would have been comedy. But it would have been the
Yeah.
closest thing to the truth.
Yeah, because he almost could be like a Loki character type of thing, right? Or someone that's just kind of around, right, at all
Yeah.
times. And so at that point, it's like, ooh, is he real? Is he, whatever. Anyway,
Essentially, he's the witch from
yep,
Rashomon.
yep.
Because even watching this film, I was literally left with that question, with like, wait, and that happened more in my second watching, because I guess the first time I was just mainly paying attention to just like the overall film, like the cinematography, the writing, the acting, all that stuff. But the second time around, that I was like more into like the story itself, I was just like, wait a minute, memory is a flawed thing, and like he's giving his perspective, she's giving her perspective, but based on the film, it's kind of like her perspective is the truth, but I'm like, is it? So I was left with that, like I want to explore, okay, what's the truth? So it definitely left me going like, well, wait, was that the real thing? And that was actually one of the questions that I wanted to bring up.
What do you
But
think?
well, without you saying what you just said, I would have been like, I guess her version is the truth, because that's what got accepted.
Same. So yeah, until you said what you said, I was assuming like we were getting like a revised version. Like the first version was his emotions, and the second version was like emotionless and just a little bit more like, because they both were kind of being a little aggy even in the second one. Whereas the first one, it just felt like she was the villain. And the second one, it seemed more like a genuine disgruntled relationship. And yeah, he was a little bit more negative, but the first one, he wasn't negative at all. And it's like made you wonder, like, huh, like you thought at first like she just was that typical person who gets selfish once they move to LA and they just want they don't want to support their spouse. And in the second one, he was a little bit more like that. So yeah, a third one would be cool, but the way the ending was, I feel like her perspective was a little bit more civil, so where they could move on, which is what kind of happens in the end. So until you said that, I was willing to accept second as like a different, like the what may have happened.
So yeah, that's great. So the initial goal was to make it so that neither story was actually the truth. Like at the end, they accept it so that they can move on. You know, whether it's right or wrong, and Noah just accepts it. Like, okay, well, that's your experience. But I wanted the goal for me when I was writing it was I wanted people to maybe have a conversation about it on the way home, where they're saying like, well, who was right, who was wrong, which is funny because after this thing was like on film festival circuits and whatnot, and I'm like doing talkbacks with the audience, and people are coming up to me and telling me their experience with the film. It was kind of funny because mostly women agreed with Audrey, and mostly men agreed with Noah, which I thought was pretty funny. And I was like, wow, how did that happen? Like, that's probably a cultural thing. It's probably a cultural thing. All the guys like, no, Noah's right. And all the girls are like, yo, Noah's wrong. Audrey's right. And I'm like, wow, like I didn't expect maybe like it to go that way. I expected it to maybe be 50-50, depending on like who you identify with in the breakup. Because the breakup is the trauma, right? So it's like, which side of the trauma have you been on probably most recently? Or, you know, have you been hurt the most by on what side? That's where I figured it would go. But really, it just turned into man versus woman.
I think so. I think it's more
Usual.
man v woman.
It's definitely usual. I feel like for me, I'm the kind of person that like understands that both of those situations do happen. Like especially like on the Hollywood scene, like it's something where people are like going after their dreams, and they can get a little selfish. So it was believable on both fronts. For me, it's just the one that happened last made it seem to me like that was the truth. So it was just the order of operations, because I like the first one, I hated her. I was like, what is she going through? Like this man's just trying to write something, you know? I guess she's good. And then the second one also is a scenario where he could have gotten so caught up that he forgot to be there for her dream, and or he may be making excuses like, oh, at least she's out there auditioning, no one's buying my book yet or my script yet. Like either situation can happen. So for me, it was just order that made me believe that the second one was truth.
Sure. I also like what you said about the parking ticket in the beginning. The whole reason I started the film off with a parking ticket because I wanted something super universal that people would just like kind of have that gut feeling about. And the first time I screened the film in Los Angeles, I remember the opening scene. Everybody went kind of like, ah, when they saw the parking ticket. And I was like, yes, it's working. Because I just wanted to get an emotional response from people right away, just to pull them into the movie. Like, no one wants to come out and see a parking ticket on their car. And I remember reading this article about this actor in LA, famous actor. I won't get into who it is or whatever, but he was saying that like, when he first moved to LA, like the struggle was it's like trying to find, like, you go to an audition, you're running across town or whatever, and you get there, you find a parking space right in front thinking it's cool, you run in, do your audition, and you come out and there's a parking ticket on the thing. And like now your whole day is ruined. You don't even have enough money to get to the audition. You manage to get there, and now you're 75 bucks in the hole, and you don't even know if you got the part or not. You know what I mean? You probably didn't. So, like, I feel like anybody who has hustled in LA gets
Triggered.
that.
Triggered,
Triggered, for sure. It's pretty triggering.
Issa Rae on, I don't know if you guys ever watched Insecure. She does that. I don't remember which season it is, but there's just this random scene, and she is the intro of an episode where her alarm goes off and she runs outside and puts her car on the other side of the street because it's street cleaning day. And I was just like, what? But relatable. But it was just so crazy. It was just like how she started her morning, and I was like, oh my gosh, been there. Because like we've had a situation where we've had two cars, and only had one space at our apartment. So we would literally have to think about that all the time. Like, okay, we're going out of town.
Well, that's Jason and I, and our neighborhood. Because first off, I worked with people who lived in Koreatown would actually park in our neighborhood, Echo Park, and get an Uber to take them back to Koreatown. So they were taking out spaces.
Oh, wow.
But the actual neighbors around us don't want, I guess, people parking. So they like spray paint the signs of what day is street cleaning, or they turn them around to not face the street. Yeah. So for sure, very relatable.
Yeah. That's wild out here in these LA streets.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, I'm glad you guys were related to those scenes, related to that scene.
Yeah.
And it's funny because oh, sorry.
No, you go.
I was gonna say I almost didn't rewatch it again because it's a shorter film. But I'm glad I did, because I feel like even in short films you miss something. So it was good to rewatch. And again, on the Vantage point, obviously, because my friend wrote it, I feel like I sided with you a lot more, or with your character a lot more the first time I watched it. So when I hear comments like, I immediately was like, why is she with him? I was just like, no, support him. He's writing this movie.
That's funny. From the get-go, I was always like, she's right. Even when we were like filming the scenes and all that, I'm like, look at Jason's character. He's a douchebag. Like, it didn't matter the whole time. And
I saw that the second time. The first time, I was just
and also I think that for me, it's the part in the audition room and how they react to him. I'm like, oh no, this is just how he is, But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Do you have any questions for us, or that you were at times asking other people, Jason, to get like their feedbacks?
Do I have any question for you guys about?
About the viewing.
No, nothing that comes to my head right off the cusp, but it may be something will come in a sec.
And so as a sidebar, the Dino and Jason, but my sidebar, I would totally be down to watching something that has the two of you and Chris Trovador as almost like, is it a movie? Is it like twins, but it's these guys, and they like, but it's not even like as deep as like twins. It's like, oh, we're primos.
Very
We're
funny.
like they
Just
just
call it
find
prequels.
out that they're
Prequels.
cousins. Yeah, it's not even that deep. Anyway, that's enough with my sidebar.
I have a very gossipy, for the
Ooh.
for the people question. Because I'm nosy. You can edit this out if needed. But do you and Catherine really date?
We do not really date.
Oh.
No, we're just
Darn,
friends.
Brr.
darn it.
So I actually met Catherine. It was very serendipitous the way I met her. I met her. We were both doing a sketch on the Jimmy Kimmel show,
I thought you were gonna
and
say
what'd you say?
you're gonna say you met at a callback, but no, it's cool.
No. We met. Actually, the funny thing is, when I was talking to her about this script, she actually had met her ex at a callback. So yeah, there was a thing there. But when I had met her, we were getting our costumes worked on or whatever, and she had like this really beautiful dress that she had on, but I guess it drew too much attention for the scene that we were doing. So like, no, let's change it or whatever. And they were like, oh, well, so we're gonna change her dress, and like we don't like your shoes, so we're gonna change your shoes. And they said everybody else can go, and they put everybody else on a bus and shipped them off to location. So it was just me and Catherine like sitting there with the wardrobe people. And the way they responded to her, I thought was very special. Like they responded to her like she was a full-on movie star, and she was very charming and very lighthearted and very funny. And I'm like, who is this chick? Like, she's like awesome. Like, I can't even like. And the way they responded to her, some people would get like a big head or just be like, oh yeah, this is just the way it is or whatever. But she was so humble and so like what's the word? Like she was so humble and just so like she was just
Genuine.
so yeah, just say she was so genuine in who she was. Like she was so like comfortable in who she was that like her genuineness just came out, and she was so nice. And me and her just got to talking or whatever, and me and her had a lot in common right from the start. I just felt like I was like, I want her to be in my life. I want her to be my friend because I think she's awesome. So throughout the day or whatever, we casually just sort of talked, and then right before we left set, you know how it is as an actor, like the crafty table's all set up and they have all like the really expensive, nice snacks for all the like, the celebrities or whatever. And me and her, like right before we get back on the shuttle to go back to the studio, like we are stuffing our pockets full of like snacks, just like, and like I'm trying to move fast, and I look up and she's right there. And we just looked at each other and she's like stuffing her purse or whatever, her pockets. And we just started laughing because we're like, we are on the same tip right now. It's just straight like struggling actor mode. And so we just kind of laughed about that. And I think like I was like, hey, we should stay in contact. And I think maybe with Facebook or something. And she ended up like inviting me to go watch a meteor shower with some friends or whatever. And I was like, okay, cool. And we were just friends ever since then. And when I started to develop the script, I was like, well, I want to have somebody in mind as I develop it. And so I thought about her first, and I was like, she's perfect. So she had this party, and I went to her party just to ask. I didn't even want to go to the party, if I'm being honest. I just went to the party, and I stuck around all night until like everything was cool and she was done being a good host or whatever. And I was like, hey, I'm about to get out of here. Would you mind walking me outside? She was, yeah, yeah. So as she's walking me outside, I pitched the movie to her, and I said, hey, if we could just meet for coffee, I would love to like talk to you about this role, and I want to write it for you. And so we met at coffee like a week later or whatever. And I said, hey, I'll write this thing for you, but you have to commit to being in it. Now, that was probably like 2018 when I pitched that to her. And then like I didn't write the script until like 2019. We started filming we were going to start filming in 2020, but then there was a pandemic. And
I
obviously
think you got a few shots though, like her apartment stuff, if I'm not mistaken,
we
before the
we shot the
shutdown.
cafe scene first, and that
Oh,
was
that
in
was the first
November of
one.
2020.
You're
Yeah, we
okay.
shot that first,
You're
and
right.
then some people in the cast and crew got COVID, so we had to shut down until May until everybody's schedules realigned, and so then we finished the rest of the film in May. of
Okay.
21.
I'm sentimental. Is the cafe scene the same coffee shop that you pitched the script to her at?
Yes.
No, no, it would be nice. So the cafe came courtesy of Daisy Fuentes, who is a friend of Steve Detz. And I was looking for Steve was originally supposed to help produce this film, but then he ran away. He said, I'm out of here." He went back to
Because
Puerto Rico.
he read it and was like, no. Just
"I'm
like,
out of here," and he left the country. No, he said,
Hey,
"I
listen,
mean, he read the script
I
and
got tired of the
immediately
parking tickets. I got tired of the parking tickets.
he he read the script and immediately got on a plane and left the country forever." No, Steve actually knew the woman who owned the coffee shop, and I was looking for. I was like scouting locations, which is a real headache. And he's like, I was like, "Yeah, I'm looking for this thing," just casually telling Steve like where I was in the process, and he goes, "Oh, well, you should go look at this coffee shop. My friend, she'll probably let you use it." And so I go in there and I see her in there, and I get to talking to her, and she was so gracious and so wonderful. And I told her what I was planning to do, and she goes, "Jason," she goes, "this is like meant to be, because this is why I have this coffee shop. I have it so that artists can be here and use it and do things in it, and this is exactly what I want to have happen. So yes, you can use it." And I was like, "We have a movie. We can shoot a movie."
So sad because you guys said it's no longer in business.
Yeah, I guess the pandemic put them out of business. I guess they're no longer there.
I would have bought a coffee.
Yeah.
I would have saved it with my one coffee purchase.
I wish I would have went back and bought more coffee, but I was right in the middle of making a film, so I stopped. I went in there once and had one coffee, maybe two, and then that was it.
I hope she gets something else.
Me
well, you're
too.
putting all your coffee money in the movie, so.
Right. That's a fact. That's a fact.
Okay, well, I was hoping you'd say yes, but I think no was a longer and better story.
All right.
Wait, what was the question again?
If you and Catherine really date.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Okay, my question would be how has it been now that you have gone through the whole process? This is a enormous task. You're like, basically hire people to make a film, scout locations, act in the movie, direct the film, be in the editing process, submit it to festivals, do all these things that you did. And now that you have gone through that process, what is it like, or how do you feel about the feedback collectively that you've gotten from the film? Because you've been able to gather it from film festivals. I believe this movie also got screened in like a movie theater in the Regal Cinemas in downtown LA, if I'm not mistaken. And it's in a major YouTube channel platform that there's a lot of comments there that I'm pretty sure you've read. So what is it like to have all that feedback?
So, really, it's a huge confidence booster, and mainly because I set my mind to doing something, and I knew it was an uphill battle, and I knew during that uphill battle, like I was probably going to be wearing roller skates. You know what I mean? Because you know, it just I had never done it before. I was depending on a lot of people for a lot of help, and I was like, and I couldn't pay people a ton of money. Some people I couldn't pay at all, and I was like, I'm really dependent on their ability to see something in this, or see something in me, or just wanting to help, or wanting to be a part of something. And I figured like if I could get that going, it would be a huge confidence booster, which it was. It's a huge confidence booster having finished this thing. And the comments, for the most part, are exactly what I wanted them to be. I mean, I didn't read all of them on YouTube. I read quite a few of them though. But after like a certain amount of negative ones, you just sort of have to put it away because you're like some of them are like not very constructive. But I will say that some of the comments on YouTube specifically were very constructive, which I do appreciate. I don't have the people's names in front of me. I wish I did, but Some of them were like spot on, like, wow, you really nailed it. And then some of them were like, he doesn't, or it was like, she's out of his league. I'm like, well, thanks. Um, very, very
Well, Jason,
helpful. Thanks, guys.
the person who said that is actually in the waiting room. We're bringing him in right now. I'm kidding.
Exactly. That's amazing.
And actually,
It was
it's
me
your
all along.
mom.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
It's Jason's mom.
Right. That's so funny. I will say though, so like there was this one festival called the LA Feedback Festival, and their big thing is to give you feedback. And so a lot of the feedback I got from them was the most insightful because they kind of gave it through a pretty good like film critique perspective. They're all film critics, and that it was just really encouraging that people saw the thing that I was trying to do. That's the biggest thing. It's like, all right, some people see something else entirely, that's cool or whatever. But the one that feels good is that I had a vision that didn't exist. And then I put that vision down and now it exists. And who knows if it's going to make sense or not? You know what I mean? Like we see films all the time that don't really hit the mark. But for me, for people to watch this and for any number of people to get exactly what I was trying to do, like even if it's just like a handful of people, like, no, I got exactly what it's trying. That's the biggest thing. It's like, wow, I did a thing that was in my mind and I translated it in a language that, you know, isn't completely fluent to me. And other people understood it and they had a feeling or a reaction or a visceral reaction to it. That's very heartwarming and that's very like confidence inducing. And it just feels good to know that like, you know, you executed a thing and you hit the mark, honestly.
Cool. Yeah. Kudos. Snap, snap, snap. All right. Anything else, or should we probably go into some final thoughts now?
Well, you guys
Or
kind of hit it a little bit, but usually we do like favorite characters or characters you guys may have identified with.
oh, I mean, I always like a good kind of bum. So clearly, Lucky, even
Lucky
though
Larry was your guy.
yeah, even though he was barely in it, it's just like I mean, he always kills it, right? So
When I was writing it, Lucky Larry was my favorite character. I was like, how can I get more Lucky Larry in this thing? But I mean, that's as much Lucky Larry as I could get.
yeah, so definitely him. And oh man, I had totally forgotten about Fa, Fa
No, fuck.
in the freaking and that was one of the funniest scenes, like filming it, like just going over and over and getting like different react, like ew, and then yeah, that whole like I don't know, 15 minutes or 20 minutes we spending on just that, from getting all the different kind of reaction shots and stuff like that
I
is
love that the actor didn't actually know what pho was and
yeah.
never bothered to look it up. He was just like, nope,
And
I don't know what it is, and I'm cool with not knowing. We're going to shoot it.
we died laughing because he said that, and then everyone, like, people falling out of the couch. Not really, but that's how it felt. It was just like, it was so great.
You guys
He didn't ask until we had shot it a few times. He had so many opportunities to say, hey, Jason, what is pho? He didn't care.
do you guys actually eat that?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I love it. It's so good.
In
It's
the
so gross.
winter, oh, there's this place I go
Did you
with
say it's
my friend.
gross?
It's so gross to me. I have a really funny story about that. And
It's just
obviously,
like chicken noodle soup.
it
Yeah.
made me freaking laugh that this was a part of the movie because one of my first dates with a guy, he took me there,
You
and
are very triggered by this movie.
one of my first dates with this guy, this was back in Atlanta. He was trying to be all like unique because it's not unique here. Everybody goes and eats that, but in Atlanta, it was like, ooh, we're gonna go to this Vietnamese spot, and it was so gross to me, and I was just like, I had confrontation issues, so I didn't want to say it was gross. It's like date number 2. You're like, oh, yeah, and a big fly just dropped in my bowl. And I was like, we gotta go. This place is disgusting. So, so it kind of got me out of eating it because like this huge
For
bug
all
in my
eternity.
bowl. Yeah, it was great. We never went back. I think we dated like 2 years too, and I never had to tell
That's
him
amazing.
that it was nasty. And yeah,
That's hilarious. So, do you think maybe it was just that place that was gross, or would you ever give pho another try?
I would not. Final
Hmm.
answer.
Final
Yeah,
answer.
yeah. It just wasn't. It wasn't for me. Like
Do you
the
like
broth.
chicken noodle
broth
soup?
is different. I feel like the broth is different though. I don't feel like it's comparable to chicken noodle soup.
That's fair,
I feel like it's a soup, but it's different seasonings and stuff.
for
I'm not
sure.
very. I'm very like I have a very Americanized palate. Like I love going to like boiling crab, but when I went to New Orleans and had like their bag shrimp, I was like, ew. Like whenever I have like the real thing, I'm always really disappointed because I'm so used to like the commercialized thing already. Like I'm like,
That's amazing.
so yeah, I've just
That's how like Americans feel about Italian food. Like Americans go over to Italy and like this is trash. Like
where
every
Where's all
American.
where's
where
the unlimited breadsticks?
yeah, where are my breasts?
You don't have breadsticks?
Listen, I love American Italian food. It's great. And so if that's not what they have over there, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
I know, even like Americanized Chinese, Americanized, not even Americanized, Midwestern Chinese food. Um, like what is going on? Like, I really thought that's how fried rice was supposed to look. Like I know where John's from, he's from St. Louis. They do like brown, like really dark rice, like it's like soaked in soy sauce and stuff.
Yep.
Like wow,
Same in
it's
Detroit. Same in
I
but
yeah.
like
I
Chinese food is regional all over the world. And I've had Chinese all over the place, and I always like it. It's always different. It's different in New York than it is in LA than it is in the Midwest, but it's always good to me.
So, speaking of just like all that and like the food and liking and not liking, when I
Mhm.
was still in Paraguay, my brother had already, come to the U.S. to start college because he's 4 years older than I. My dad and mom, we would like maybe a couple every other Sunday or whenever we'd go to this Chinese place, and that kind of became like our Chinese place. And so Victor, my brother, when he came to visit and we went to go get Chinese, we went there. I don't know, he was seeing the outside or whatever and then coming in the inside and he was just like, this place is like not bougie, but it's like it's not real Chinese food. Like they're on like because he had some really good friends in high school that were Chinese, Taiwanese, like all the different gamut. So he was just like, there aren't any like Chinese people here. I was just like this whole spiel of like this is not good, and then the in walks in the parents of his best friend who are Chinese and they come and like, oh hey, and like, oh we love this place, blah blah blah. And then there were some kind of known people. So as soon as they sit down, we got served immediately. We would always kind of have to wait some, or because it was packed. It was such a that boy did the waiters, and the owners saw that they came to our table to talk to us, and then we got the service.
Was
So
this, you said this was in Alabama?
Paraguay.
Paraguay.
Yeah.
Where'd you
A
hear out?
the other south, way
The
down
other side.
yonder.
And
Yeah.
just because this is going on the internet, I draw the line with my American palate at mall food. So I do understand that Panda Express and all those little spots are not real Chinese food. And then also tacos. Tacos are
Sorry.
probably the only thing that once I realized what authentic tacos were, I liked those better than Taco Bell because growing up,
Ooh.
even at home, you made the hard shell, you put the ground beef, the cheese, sour cream, tomatoes. Like
For
I
sure.
thought I carnitas, like I'd never even carne asada. I'd never heard of that in my life. I was like, it's ground beef is tacos, but yeah. So
I just want to say that I like them both. I don't eat Taco Bell anymore, but I do appreciate a good hard taco, man. Like I love the crunch.
and then
There was
I
like only
Taco Bell still, but I just don't consider it to be. I thought that was Mexican food. You know what I mean? I thought
Yeah.
that was it. So it's still good for what it is, like late night junk.
Taco Bell is America's #1 Mexican restaurant, and I'm not making that up. That's a real thing that has been like headlined in like publications.
All
Crazy.
right, let's end this Taco Bell commercial and let's go
Wait,
It's
Taco Bell,
Back
give
to
us
pho. Back
money.
to pho.
I love this. Okay, so that our favorite character is Taco Bell. Apparently,
Yeah.
it's great how our conversations have taken
I'm
such.
sorry. I'm
What
sorry. It
was
just
it?
from
No, 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 no. But it was
the
like, what was the question again? Jason also had that moment.
Mine
Anyway,
is
Well,
Noah, and I had to look up Noah's name because I was gonna say my favorite character was Jason. Um, this whole
they're
time.
different. They're different. It's the
No,
character.
but yeah, I just liked his character the most, probably because it was like the first person we're introduced to, and like I said, you side with him for most of the movie.
also
So
why did you name yourself Noah?
oh yeah,
that's a really good question. So initially, I wasn't going to play the part at all. Initially, I never offered it to any other actor, but I did give the script to read to two actors that I had in mind. And
Trevor
neither,
Noah.
well, no, Noah. The reason I chose Noah is because I kind of wanted a biblical name.
I said
Uh,
Trevor Noah though, as the person that you like try to
oh no,
get
it was
him
not
to.
Trevor Noah. I didn't offer it to him. I think he would. Hopefully, he would have got it. I chose Noah because well, there's a couple of reasons. I chose Noah because it was a biblical name. And also, if I'm being completely honest, as I was going through like biblical names, I was like, well, does Noah really fit? I was like, I kind of like the way it sounds or whatever. But I remember when I was a kid, my mom used to watch soap operas, and there was a man on the soap operas who she kind of had a crush on it. His name was Noah. So it just kind of like stuck in my mind. And I was like, as I was writing it, initially the character's name was just Jason because like I didn't know what to name him. So I'm like, whatever. But it was not for me. And then I decided to go with Noah. Only so, and then like the two guys that I had offered, I didn't offer the role to them. The two guys I gave the script to, they didn't get it. They didn't get the script. They didn't get what was happening in it. They were like very confused about it, the whole thing. I was like, that's odd. I was like, all right. So then I gave it to a bunch of women to read, and all the women got it. Every woman was like, I like this script. I like what you're doing. You write great for women. And then I was like, oh, that's why the two guys didn't get it, because the lead of the story is a girl. It is a woman, right? And I think the guys felt like when they read it, they were the lead, but then they weren't. By the end of it, they realized, wait, this guy's not the lead. I don't understand what's happening here. That's what I think. I don't know that to be a fact, but that was the feeling that I got from it.
you have to watch
So
one
then
more.
I was like, oh, just last thing. So then, like after those two guys turned it down, I just didn't want to look for anybody else to play the part. And I was like, well, I know how to play it. I know what to do, and I'll just do that. Looking back on it in retrospect, I'm fine with having to play the part, but I feel like the movie could have been better for sure had someone else played it, because it would have given me the ability to do more stuff and not have to like worry about acting at all.
I feel that. So it
Cool.
was originally Jason, so I was right. No kidding.
Sort of, yeah, sort of.
But
It
I
was a placeholder name, honestly, but I never had any intention of playing this part.
and I feel like I'm gonna have to watch it another more because it could be I gotta dissolve some of this bias because I actually felt like Noah was the main character. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah,
just felt like there are parts that like she becomes more of your focus, but I don't know. Yeah, I'm not too sure if I was ever like rooting for her, like until the second perspective came in.
sure. Well, yeah, I mean, it's written like that on purpose because I
Okay.
kind of want to catch the audience off guard and make them feel a certain way or make them question everything they thought they knew. She's the lead for me, from my perspective, because I mean, she starts the film and she ends the film. And I thought when I was writing this as a short initially that maybe Noah would be the lead, but then quickly, very quickly in the writing process, I realized, nah, this thing's way more interesting from her perspective. Like she needs to carry this film, and it'll be a better film if it's through the female perspective, because it's a relationship film, and because like Noah's kind of a jerk.
And
I think
gets he has the power. So once he gets he writes the film that's casting, right? So
Yeah.
usually with that power dynamic, power struggle, it's more compelling. I don't know, compelling or whatever to see the one that kind of has to fight up, if you will.
Yeah, he becomes the villain. And it's like, well, that's our villain of our story, and he's a stronger villain than she would have been in this situation. So it just kind of came together that way. But in the feature version, the longer version, it's much more balanced. I wouldn't say that there's a lead in the feature. I think they're like dual leads.
This is my last question because if not, we'll be here all night. Uh, have you actually thought? Because I know you said the feature version, but now that I think about it, the story itself and just how, yes, you can argue she's the lead. You can also argue he's the lead. But like now seeing it, I'm like, this would be a very interesting episodic. Have you thought of that? Because it
Yeah.
reminded me. It reminded me a little bit. Have you seen the series from HBO? It started on Vimeo first. It was called High Maintenance.
Yes. I love
Yes.
that show.
So that one, the lead is the dude in the bike, but like it's not. He's not really the lead. It follows like other people. So it kind of reminded me of that. Like there's not
He's kind of the
necessarily.
conduit for everybody else.
Yeah.
He's the connector. So yeah, that I've been approached a few times with the idea of this thing being a series. Like, right? I think one of the early film festivals I went to, there was a guy who worked in TV, and he came up to me. He goes, "This is a series, right?" And I was like, "Well, actually, it's a film." He goes, "No, this is a series, right?" He goes, "Because I'm telling you, I work in television. This thing is a series." Like, he goes, "I was really interested in what was going to happen to them next, and I think 30-minute episodics would be great for this." It's possible that I could do that, and like in my mind's eye, I could probably do a couple seasons of it. But I'm a film guy, and I never really had an interest in like writing television for real, for real. I mean, maybe I do, maybe I got some ideas, but for this, it was always a film. So I mean, I don't know. We're going to develop it and stretch it out
But
a little bit. See,
here's the thing. Episodic now is basically turning into movies.
this is true.
Like if like I travel a lot to Colombia, and basically their novelas have turned into full blown episodic movies.
Yep.
Like a lot of them. And right now, recently, I just saw I think like twice or three times this new show that came out on Peacock called Twisted Metal. There's a series, but it's basically shot like a movie. It's just like episodic. And I think the story itself and like how this world is shaped nice enough for it to have like there's moments, especially being a drama and a comedy, like there's moments for like not only uplifting moments, but moments with a lot of cliffhangers and things like, oh, you gotta watch the next one to like discover more of the relationship between this person, like things like that. Like, because for example, like the more I think about it, was like, okay, second time watching, I was like, okay, what is the actual truth? And then what is this Lucky Larry guy all about? Like there's many things like that that you can tell all that story better, in my opinion, in shorter, I guess, getting there, chugging along than like
Yeah.
a full blown film.
I could definitely see both ways too. Like, obviously, it's a short film. So, like you said, you had to work with what you had in the moment and pick the details that you felt like would help get the message across in the amount of time you had. So, who knows what we would have felt like if was an hour and a half. Maybe we would have been just fine with how it was working. But I'm a huge TV girly. I love watching TV shows. And so I also could see like it's on trend right now to have these shows that have like multiple different people. You fall in love with this first person you're introduced with, but then you also know all the friends story. Like I feel like New Girl kind of like started that era of that kind of thing, but you have shows like A Million Little Things. Like there's a lot of things like that, and this could definitely be something that has like layered things, and not just one season, because it's like what happens when the callback's over. Like it could continue. You could show the filming aspect. We already had a little bit with the fog conversation of what's that guy about? You know, what does he do when he gets off work? Like it could lead to like knowing there were so many characters, like even the people that were working in casting. It wasn't just the casting director, there was other people there too that I feel like were a part of the film. What do they do on a Friday night? Like it's all, you're already so that I could see that way going kind of towards the show where we have
That's a really great idea. Yeah.
so many things we could see there. And then,
Yeah, for sure.
Lucky Larry, you know, where's his wife? You know, she's, I want her to be played by, what's the lady? Jennifer Coolidge. That's his wife. I just imagine
That would be amazing.
Oh my God, that'd be a pairing. All right, boom, we're doing it.
Final
Right?
thoughts. Here we are.
I'll go real quick. Yeah, I enjoyed, being a part of this film first off, and especially seeing how hard Jason was working, and him talking about the lines and everything, just being honest about it. Because I remember I was helping him. I had the bigger car, so it's like helping him try and go the rental, get the cameras, everything. So just seeing just how much effort, how much he cared about it and putting in and then seeing this final product, it's like so well done, and I'm also really happy with how well it's been reviewed and at the different festivals and all that. So really proud, even just being in the back of it. But yeah, so that's my final thoughts.
Thanks, Dino. I appreciate that.
You can go next.
Let's go with boom, boom, boom.
My final thoughts are everybody should go watch this ASAP. Let's get it some views. Let's get it some comments. If you're a production company, you should invest in it so we can make it a show or a longer movie. But yeah, I really liked this movie a lot, and I would love to see it grow. Whether or not it's more of it or something similar, I do like the concept. I love movies that kind of talk about LA. I feel like it's super relatable for people working in the industry, and I'm definitely gonna tell all my friends that are fighting the fine fight in this industry to give it a watch.
Yay.
Link in bio. I'm just kidding.
So final thoughts. First off, I commend you, Jason, for pushing this vision into reality. I'm sorry that the moment you sent me the script and I saw that you were gonna cold open with the ticket thing, I got triggered and I had to leave LA, so I couldn't help you with that. No, I'm kidding. But it is great to see like such like a thing that you literally imagined, then put into paper and then actually created and then showcased it and like went through that whole process that I know is a humongous process, and it takes so much of your time, not only just creating it, but then the process of making it, perfecting it, showcasing it, and doing all that stuff. Like it's so much work that I want to say congratulations. You made that happen. Now you know the whole process. Now you can replicate it again, or you can use those skills to do even bigger and brighter things. It's up to you. I vote for series myself, but I don't mind a feature film. And if you want to put your vote in, put in the comments below. Do you want to see a feature film of this? Do you want to see a series of this? Your votes count, and whatever happens here is actually going to happen. Let's cross fingers.
Welcome to being in a studio production now, Jason. Everyone's got a voice, but you.
That's what
right.
It is. That's what it is. And
but forget Jason's voice. He doesn't know what he's doing. Give us what we want. That's how it is.
That I don't want to like make it too long, but yeah, that's my final thought.
So my final thought is yes, it was a lot of hard work. Yes, I'm really, I want to say I'm fired up to do it again. I'm not fired up to do it again just yet. You know, I still got to like clear some cobwebs out of this thing, you know. But yeah, no, I want to make films for the rest of my life. Like, so this was a really nice experience. You know, to complete it honestly. What a lot of people. Funny thing was, a lot of people who knew I was making this film, a lot of people got quiet about it. Like, you know, maybe a year into the process or whatever, because they would say stuff like, "Oh, I would ask about your film, but you know how people are in LA. Like everybody starts a thing and they never finish it. So I didn't want to ask you about your film. Like, no, I am a psychopath. If I start something, I have to finish it, even if it's a terrible movie. Like I have to finish it because I'm crazy. So yeah, and I mean, I think you got to be a little bit crazy to make a movie because it's a lot. Who would I recommend this thing to? I would recommend it to everybody. Go see the movie, you guys. What are you waiting for? I would recommend it to actors. I would recommend it to artists. I would recommend it to dreamers. I would recommend it to anyone who's moving to LA from their hometown who dreams of being something different than what they are right now. That's who really the movie is made for. It's made for the dreamers who come out to LA. The movie, like, I wanted to make a movie about the community that I live in, which is Hollywood. And I figured all roads point to Hollywood anyways, you know, as far as like filmmaking goes. So why not make a movie about our community? And so that's what I did. And when I watch the movie again, yeah, I'll probably have to watch it again.
Nice. And you got any questions left, Jason?
I do have one more question. Steve, what do you got for us next week?
Next week, I don't know why you asked me because it's not my turn. It is Marina's turn.
Yay.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So, yeah. So, we're going to get really girly next week, and we are going to watch one of my favorite movies coming from a partially homeschooled gal, Mean Girls.
Nice.
Whoop, whoop. All
All right,
right.
Mean Girls it is, starring Lindsay Lohan and Amy McAdams.
Um, Rachel, it's
Oh,
cool.
Rachel, and not Amy. Rachel. This one's the Rachel McAdams.
And just in
Yeah,
case
there
you
you
guys
go.
forgot, Dino,
Written by Tina Fey.
I would love for everybody to wear pink while we talk about
Okay.
it.
All right.
Ask your
I will
sister,
be.
ask your mom, wear it
It
backwards.
might it might not be visible.
So
Pink,
there you
green.
go.
All
For
right.
Marina, Jason Echols, Jason Ishmael Echols, Eldon Dino, and Steve Des TV. Who catch you next week? Bye bye.
Bye.